What is going on, everybody? It is a fantastic evening in the world of Anon. It's a video I mentioned over the weekend I was going to put out. There's a ton of misinformation in the market across YouTube. So I'm going to talk about labels. I want to talk about reprint versus restock. So the first thing that's important here is, as you guys should mostly be aware, the labels fade over time. These are heat transfer labels. They're not ink. If you wet your finger, rub across, you're not going to get much off. So with heat transfer, they'll set these up for the print run. They'll print X number of them, and then that's it. They'll reset everything, or they'll buy them this way, either or, and that's it. So what you'll see consistently here, and I will show you. Let's just look at the Brilliant Stars here. So here's the title, language, print in the US, card sleeves in China, condition markers in China, carton contains 10 boxes. There is their SKU number, carton, number per carton, and here's your purchase order number. So the purchase order is related to whichever distributor, big box store, whomever these products are going to. So let's start with with the obvious one, and this is kind of bearing the lead a little bit, but let's just dagger this while we can. There we go. So it took me a little bit to get this together because I had to get to storage. I had to get some pictures just so everybody can kind of visualize this stuff. So if we look at this here, I'm going to truncate this a little bit, just squish it. So the left, this is the reprint. The right is the first wave. So if you look at this, not much different here, not much different here, but you have it not for retail sale before November 8th, 2024. On the confirmed reprint, it does not say that, and it doesn't say that because there's no reason for them to say that because the product's already come out. In addition, you have a different purchase order number. In fact, the structure of the label is different. So here you have 36 boosters, print in the USA. Here's your purchase order number and your carton item. The carton item is removed for this. So I don't know if they changed the way that they're tracking these, the way they're being automated, but it's clearly two completely different print runs because the purchase order itself is set up differently, and it says not for retail sale before November. So I went back to some Sword and Shield products, and I just want to show you guys a comparison. So we just walked through Brilliant Stars. This is an ETB case from the very, very end, the last print run for Brilliant Stars, and you can see that there's nothing on there. In fact, this is actually very similar to the structure of the label for Surging Sparks. And the one thing we know is they did change their inventory system. I believe it was December, January timeframe, which is interesting because they changed their SKUs completely. They changed the structure of the SKUs. And we know that just from data scraping the Pokemon Center website. But either way. So on the bottom here, this is a brand new case of Junior Together ETBs. So here, slightly different. You have the purchase order number. You have where it's made, printed in the US, cartons. Here's your barcode, and here's your not for retail sale before March 28th, 2025. So this is very, very clearly from the initial print run. This is very, very clearly from a later print run. So let's take a look at this. These are booster bundle cases that I happen to have. Lost Origins, and I'll just speak freely. So Lost Origins booster bundle came from Hills probably 6 months ago. Chances are they've had these pallets for forever. So print in the USA, here's your carton, here's your SKU number, here's the purchase order, not for retail sale before September 9th, 2022. So this is the original print run of booster bundles that came out before release. Now, let's go down to Silver Tempest. The Silver Tempest bundle cases I bought off Pokemon Center. September, October timeframe when some of the Sword and Shield stuff was starting to disappear. And this is very clearly a reprint, which everybody knows that all these Sword and Shield sets got reprints of booster bundles, most likely booster boxes, but certainly Elite Trainer boxes near the end of the era. So you have same situation here. You have the SKUs and the barcode, but you do not have not for retail sale before blah, 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 2023. So what I want to do is I want to show a couple other comparisons. Now, this is a weird anomaly here because this is the and I have little labels up here. This is a Walmart Legendary Warriors thing collection. This came out after all of Sword and Shield was done. In fact, this came out a year into Scarlet Violet. But what's interesting here is you can see this, printed in the USA, blah, blah, blah. This is not for retail sale before November 1st, 2024. So the purpose of this is just to make sure they're not putting them on the shelves before they're supposed to. So this has really nothing to do with release date of the actual product. This has to do with they don't want the product on the shelf in big box stores for whatever reason before November 1st, 2024. Now, we're going to look at 151. And then we're going to look at Prismatic Evolutions. And, you guys can claim whatever you want to in the comments. This is just science and facts. And, if you want to hold your breath and say the sky is purple, have at it. Appreciate the views. So this is an initial first print run 151 Elite Trainer box. So we have the same stuff that we saw before, not for retail sale before September 22nd, 2023. Now, what's interesting over here, we have two different poster collections. And let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. Probably not. This is two different print runs of reprints. So the way we know this is you have a clean label with the border around the barcode. And here you have the old style barcode. This is your purchase order, blah, 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 012. And here it's 10 something 156. But neither one of these has not for retail sale before September 22nd, 2023, because these were both reprinted after the initial print run. So that being said, and it looks like Christmas decorations. I don't even know what that is. That being said, you can kind of tell, kind of the vintage, but you can tell whether it was printed initially or not initially. Because again, remember, they're printing these labels based on what they're going to need. Don't make the mistake of thinking these guys are printing 500,000 extra labels. Like, that's not how the logistics world works. They are printing for perfection, exactly what they need, and they're not wasting a penalty. This is all Six Sigma shit. So those of you who just assume that there's a stack of labels that they'll get to whenever they get to, you have no fucking idea how supply chain works. Now, moving to Prismatic. I've mentioned multiple times when 151 came out, there was a first wave in September, and then there was a second wave of the exact same product that was printed and held back that came out in April or May. This happens with every single set. Well, it just does. And this is what they do. So let's look at the label. So this is from the initial release. And oops, I believe, I don't know why it jumped up. I believe this case here this is actually, I believe, from Walmart. I think this is a case that I ended up getting at MSRP on the open market before things went crazy, because we were so limited with the store. We bought a bunch of cases off Walmart before all the bots and everything were crazy, just to make sure we had enough for the store. So you have purchase order 17 blah, blah, 107, not for retail sale before January 15th. You can very clearly see the barcodes, the numbers here. Now, this is the supposed reprint, wave 2. However, what you see on here is you see the exact same label. Now you have a purchase order 107. Here's purchase order 171. You have the same not for retail sale before. In fact, the serial numbers under the barcode are exactly the same. This was all set up. This was all from the exact same print run, and it was just a continuation of what they shipped out in the first print run. So anybody who wants to call this a reprint, you can call it whatever you want, but this is a continuation of the exact same Wave 1 print run, and the labels prove it. So again, you can kick and scream, hold your breath. Yeah, you might suffocate, but this is the way logistics work, and the facts are the facts. So, it's interesting, but it's not interesting. But I think what's most telling is, the Pokemon Company hasn't changed the status quo. Now, one thing I heard today is, apparently they have been working on a new manufacturing line, that they had anticipated it to be open late April, early May, in advance of Black and White. I think what we'll find out in the next couple weeks is, are the number of ETBs and other products being sent to distributors significantly larger than what we've seen in the past? If the answer is yes, it's going to be super interesting because there's going to be a lot of supply, a lot of additional supply in the market. Um, and if no, then there's going to be a lot of supply of something else coming into the market, probably starting, yeah, they'll start printing the end of May, but you're probably talking middle of summer, during the doldrums when the market is the softest, um, of product coming to market. And, I don't know if it's 1 out of 6, 1 out of 8, but it should be pretty sizable increase in output, you know, 4, 5, 6%, maybe as high as 10%. Um, and again, supply chain isn't the issue here, as far as I know. It's capacity. And I know there those of you out there that said they'll figure out a way to print. They will. I agree 100%. What you fail to consider is the timing of when the printing can and can't be done, because Millennium Print Group is a for-profit business that is not integrated into the Pokemon Company. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Pokemon Company, but they have their own customers, and they're not going to kick them out to print Pokemon cards. Now, they may wean them off and not renew contracts as those contracts to print expire, but they're not going to kick them out because it's just terrible business. And for those of you who are like, well, they did it during COVID, half their customers shut down because print media went to zero. Um, so you can't really compare that. It's apples and oranges. They will catch up in printing. It will be a long, drawn out, relatively slow slog, because that's just the way these things happen. And there's not going to be a bubble that bursts, in my opinion. It'll be a slow rebalancing to equilibrium, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see when they stop, because if there's an inflection point, as we all know, when products start to look like the prices are going down, people lose interest, and selling built on selling, and price reductions kind of build on each other. And just like as we know, when products go up, all of a sudden people want them. So we're probably 5 or 6 months before any of that happens. Um, but we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to go through this. I wanted to show labels. I wanted to explain what they look like. For those of you who disagree, again, it's a free country. Do whatever you want. But these are the facts. So anyway, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. We may actually have a banger sale coming up that I wasn't expecting. But we'll have more information tomorrow. So anyway, guys, have a good night.